Hi everyone, Nicholas here with JiveFusion Technologies. Today I'd like to go over the basics of translating a Word document with Fusion. So the scenario is quite simple. You as a translator are using Fusion and you've received a new document to translate. The first thing you should do is make sure you have the right resources selected for the job. And for more information on this, I refer you to our manual or the video that we have available on how to select the proper resources. It's quite simple, but maybe a little video refresher will help you. So as you can see, I already have Fusion open. Um, for the purpose of this demonstration, I will be working with local translation memories and terminology bases, but the process is the exact same whether you work locally, as in this demo, or if you're part of a team that works in a server environment. The process will not change. Here is, for example, the document that we have to translate. Uh, as with most CAT tools, you will be going through the document sentence by sentence. You will do what we call opening and closing each sentence or segment one at a time, each time entering your translation, and then saving it into your translation memory and moving on to the next one. As you can see within Word, Fusion has installed its own little ribbon, and the ribbon has a button for each functionality that's accessible to you. So it goes from opening segments, closing and opening segments, to restoring a segment, to further functionality. I will not be discussing everything here. This is more supposed to be an overview, and I certainly don't want to overwhelm people with information. Um, every functionality is described at length in our user guide, and you can also get in touch with us with any question. Uh, so let's get started. I'm the translator. I've received this document. I have made sure that my translation memories are in order in my selection. So, quite simply, all I have to do is position the cursor wherever in the document I need to start or resume work and go from there. So, because this is a new document, I'll be starting from the top. So, I put my cursor in the first sentence. Anywhere within the sentence really will do, except at the end. So you want to be at the start of it or in the middle of it, doesn't really matter. And then to proceed with opening the segment, as I was mentioning, all you have to do is click this button. This is pretty much the button that you will be using approximately 95% of the time that you work with Fusion. If I click this button, what happens? Well, two things happen. First, you've probably noticed that within Fusion, boxes have appeared in around the text that I have to translate. So we have here the source box, the box that contains the source or original text, as well as the target box. In our case, a translation was automatically added, and that's because Fusion has found a match. The other thing that happened is that this little window, which we call the companion, has appeared. The companion is Fusion's results manager. So this is where everything that Fusion finds for the current segment will be displayed and listed. A quick note is that you can automatically adjust the companion and Word windows so that they tile nicely together, as is the case right now. If you want to modify that behavior, either because you do not want those windows to tile automatically, maybe you want to keep them separate spots or even different monitors, you can do so. If you do want them to tile together, make sure that the first option, automatically tile with Word, is checked, and then you can decide where you would like the companion window to dock respective to the Word window. In my case, I've set it to the left, but you can switch it to the right if you want. And as you see, if I resize the companion, then Word will resize itself automatically. or you could have the right or the bottom. Whichever is more suitable to you, to your liking. Personally, just working with those white screens that we have nowadays, um, I find that the side docking is more comfortable. But once again, it is entirely up to you, and you don't even need to use that functionality if you don't want to. Uh, parenthesis closed. Now, let's go back to our translation. As I mentioned, we've opened the segment, and the companion has actually returned us everything that it found. In our case, it found 2 exact matches and 1 expression match. Because it found an exact match, it's inserted it automatically in our translation box. Um, Now, had we not found anything, the translation box would still be here, except it would be empty, or possibly would contain the original text, depending on some of your profile options. But uh, whatever the case may be, at this point, this is where you, as a translator, come in, and you can either review the existing translation if one has been provided to you, or enter a brand new one. And of course, uh, you can bring any modification that is appropriate in this case. Uh, and once you're done, you close the segment and move on to the next one. Now, in this case, I do not want to bring any modification. The translation is appropriate. It works for me. So all I have to do is use this magic button that I mentioned before, and what happens is it closes the current segment and opens the next one. Same thing again. This time it's found another exact match, so it has inserted automatically, and I again don't need to do anything. So uh, I keep moving on. Or maybe in this case I do want to bring a modification, so I enter my modification, and then I close, save, next, get, which, as the name implies, closes and saves the current segment. So my translation will be saved in the translation memory that I've selected, and then it will proceed on to the next segment and get any results that it can find. Alright, so finally, here you have an example of Fusion not having found anything. So the translation box is left empty, and me as a translator, um, I have free reign to enter whatever it is I want to enter. So what could that be? Excuse me, I am not a translator myself, but say let's just say that this is the appropriate translation. I'm sure you'll forgive me. Again, quite simply, I typed my translation, and then I keep on going through the rest of the document just like I've just done by using the same button, close, save, and next, get. Okay, so I hope all this so far is fairly clear. Now, before I go any further, I actually want to quickly discuss some of the other buttons that are available. Again, I will not go over all of them. This is beyond the scope of this video, but at least the ones that are most often used. Other than close, save, and next get, right next to it I have close, save, and previous get. As the name suggests, it will close and save the current segment if one is opened, and then move on to the previous one. The button after this is close and save. So again, this time it will just close and save the segment that we're working with, but will not proceed to the previous or next one. The reason why you would use that every now and then is, well, maybe you're done for the day and you don't actually want to open another segment, or you were just going over the document again, you just wanted to bring in a change in the middle of it, and don't actually want to open the next one, or etc, whatever the case may be. So, for example, if I click it now, boom, my translation has been inserted. It's also been sent to the translation memory, but I have not opened another document. The next button right next to it is restore source. So this is used when I have an open segment and I want to remove my translation from it. So in that case, I click this button and you see that my translation has been removed and I'm left with the original document. Uh, and this is all I will talk about right now for our functionality. Okay, so one quick thing I want to touch base on is the fact that how does Fusion really work with Word documents? How does Fusion know what corresponds to what? Quite simply, Fusion does so by while you are working on a document. So this is a work in progress document. While you're working on it, both the original text and the translation text are kept within the document. Um, the original text is not displayed most of the time simply because we've formatted it to be hidden, which is one of the functionalities that Word offers. If I were to display the hidden text, as I just did now, not just the hidden text but some formatting marks as well, you will see that all of a sudden, for each sentence that I have translated, I have the original content, the translated content, and all this is grouped together by what we refer to as tags. So you have 3 tags per segment. You have the opening one that I've just highlighted, you have the middle one, and you have the closing one. You don't really want to concern yourself with those tags. Those are handled automatically by Fusion. What you do want to do, however, is be careful and not to damage them. If you damage them, Fusion will probably not be able to reopen a segment later on or maybe do some of the other operations. There is tag protection built in, which does not fully prevent you from deleting or modifying tags, but it should in most cases. If you have any issues with any of this, you can always contact us. We can go into more details about how this all works. But we just wanted to show you this so that you know exactly that while you're working, this is what the document contains. So as it is, this document is not ready for sending to the customer, right? Because it contains all of your working data, and this is definitely not something the customer would be happy with. But anyway, this was just a little parenthesis. I don't want to spend more time on this. Just be aware of this. Okay, so I'm hiding hidden text again, just because it's clearer and makes it easier to work with in the context of a demo. One neat little thing I just wanted you to notice is that if I open this segment again, remember earlier we had closed and saved it. So even though the first time we opened it we had no result, now that we've closed and saved it, if we reopen it, well, of course we get the benefit of it because it's been saved into our translation memory. So it's listed in our companion and it's been inserted for us automatically. So if the same sentence or something close to it reappears in the document, it will be right there for you. What if I had this sentence to translate and a result already exists, and the result is actually correct in some contexts, just not in mine. However, I want to keep both in my transition memory. I don't want to just overwrite what's already there. So let's just say that I want to translate training and demo by something else. Well, this is where the add as new translation button right here comes in handy. This function will allow you to enter a new translation and add it as another choice that you will be getting next time you next time you get the same sentence. So let's just say I actually want to translate it differently, and I want to keep both results into my translation memory. Before I use either close save or close save and next get, or close save and previous get, I click the Add as New Translation button. And what that will do is send it to my translation memory, and both of them will now be available. So now, if I were to reopen this segment at a later point, which I will simulate right here, I will get both results available to me. So this is what the Add as New Translation button will do for you. Now, one thing I want to quickly mention as well is that it is much more comfortable, at least for most people, to use keyboard shortcuts rather than having to come back, grab the mouse, click on the button, go back to the keyboard and start typing. So each function, at least all the functions that are used on a regular basis within Fusion, have their own keyboard shortcut associated with them. For example, the close save next get function is Alt and down arrow key. Similarly, the close save and previous get is the Alt and up arrow key. Close and save only is Alt and end, etc., etc. If you want to know what the shortcut key for each function is, all you have to do is hover the mouse over the button, and this little hint box will show up and tell you what it is. Also, you can find those shortcut keys, I'm pretty sure, within the manual. They will be listed there. Okay, so let's just say I'm done with this section of the document. As I mentioned, normally you would go through the document by just going from sentence to sentence using the close save next get or the Alt down shortcut until you reach the end of it. There are some things I would like to mention, though. However, something that's quite common is having footnotes or endnotes within a sentence, and people want to know how to translate those. Well, there's two things to keep in mind. First of all, so you see I have a sentence here that contains 3 footnotes, it appears. Okay, so let's just say that's where I am at in my document, and I will open the segment by pressing the Alt down shortcut. I will start typing my translation. I don't know why I inserted that character there, but however. For argument's sake, I'm just going to use the copy source to target because I do not feel like making a fool of myself and trying to translate this sentence. Let's just let's not do that. Let's recap. Let me okay. Let me enter a random translation. Okay. Again, the actual translation is irrelevant to what I want to discuss right now. As you can see, the sentence that we are translating contains 3 footnotes. The references to the footnotes need to be transferred to the translation, and once that's done, we'll also have to translate the footnotes themselves. So how do we do this? Well, quite simply, what you want to do is start in appearing order in the source document. Okay, so these happen to be the first 3 in the document, so they are numbered 1, 2, and 3, but they could be numbered 47, 48, 49. The process would be the same. You want to find a spot in the translation where the first footnote belongs. So let's say in French, the footnote belongs here, and it could be anywhere. It could be here, it could be at the end of the sentence, however you want to do it. But let's just say it belongs here after the word phrase, right? What I want to do is to transfer that footnote. I want to press the Alt key, and then Number one. Number one, not because that's the number of the footnote, but that's because it's the first one that appears in that segment. Okay, so again, if we were dealing with number 47, 48, 49, I would still press Alt 1 because this is the first one that appears in the segment. So if I press Alt 1, you see that the reference to the footnote here has been changed. It does not reference a footnote anymore. However, a footnote reference here has been added. Now people might be going, wait a second, why is this not number 3? It used to be number 1. The reason for that is that footnotes, just like endnotes, they are managed by Word, and Word handles them in the order in which they appear. So while it previously appeared here, it is now there. So from Word's point of view right now, the order has changed. So its number is not 3. But if you notice, however, the content of footnote number 3 is first footnote. So that, the content itself has not changed. I mean, Word is smart enough, excuse me, to realize that the position has changed, but the content should not. Okay, so even though it says 3 here, that's perfectly normal because from Word's point of view, it's the third one in the document. Now, I've transferred the first footnote. Now I want to transfer the second one. Well, similarly, I position myself wherever the second one belongs, and then instead of Alt 1, this time I'm going to do Alt 2 because that's the second one. So I put it here, and now again that little juju with the numbers happened. You see that the one that was originally 1 that became 3 is now number 2, but as we can see, the content is still okay. The one that used to be number 2 that just been transferred has now become number 3, but its contents are well and good, so no problem here. And then finally, let's transfer the last footnote. In this case there's 3, so this will be the last one. Let's just say it goes here. Again, the position is purely for argument's sake. It could go anywhere within your translated segment. And this time, similarly, I will do Alt 3. And again, Alt 3 because it is the third one in this segment. And again, with the little juggling of the numbers, it is not number 1, but it has the correct content. Number 2, which used to be number 1, has the current content. And number 3, which used to be the second one, has the current content. So all this is good. I have now transferred my footnotes, and so my segment is finished. However, Fusion will not jump automatically into the footnotes. What you need to do at this point is close and save your segment, and then go and translate the footnote themselves. And you do so by simply clicking anywhere within the footnote and then opening the segment as if it were a regular part of the document. So if I do this, I can now translate this footnote. And if I close, save, and next get, I will move on to the next footnote. See? Quite simply. The process here is just the same as translating the rest of the document. Right? And I could do the third one, but I think you get the gist of it. So I'm just going to close and save it. Now, obviously, in your document, you would want to translate the third one. One thing I will advise you about as well is that because the translated text might be larger than the original text, it's quite possible that a footnote will actually end up being on the next page. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure that you've translated all the footnotes. Again, moving from one to the next should be sufficient. Anyway, Fusion will take you to the next one, but it might just happen to be on the next page. So just keep an eye out for that. Word documents can contain tables as well as other shapes and forms. Fusion will translate most of the text, including the headers. It will translate everything that's in tables. Some items that appear in Word are not technically text as much. If you use like magic text with those crazy animations, this will not be considered text really. It's a completely different objects, so Fusion will not be able to handle those. But this is not typically what you'll have to translate, so it should not be an issue. Um, when you have a table, Fusion will jump into it seamlessly. So, for example, let's assume I'm working with this sentence. If I move on to the next one, right away Fusion will go into the table and go through each cell of the table one by one up until you're finished. One thing that Fusion will not jump automatically into, just like the footnotes, is text boxes. So I have a text box here simply for this purpose, to show you that you will need to actually click it in the text itself. But once you do that, you'll be able to translate it normally. Um, However, as you can tell, text boxes don't automatically adjust usually. So for the duration of the translation, you might have to play with the size a little bit just so that you're able to see everything. So let's say oopsie. See what I mean? Anyway, I'm not going to bother translating this. I just wanted to show you that it's possible. Now, once you finish your translation, you can resize the text box to only accommodate the text, or whatever is necessary for the document at hand. Okay. Now, there are. Let's assume we have finished translating our document. Again, I don't want to go through the whole thing because it would be pointless. You just watch me going from one sentence to the next. One thing you want to be sure is to, first of all, save your document. And then there are several scenarios depending on how you work, whether you work for yourself, whether you work as part of a team, or your process may be different. But you can, the first thing you'll probably do is revise your document, go over it, make sure it's okay. So you'll do that. If you want to retouch a translation because you're not happy with it, all you have to do at this point is come back to the sentence, position yourself in the middle of it. Again, use your magic button, close, save, next, get. Bring the modifications that are necessary, and when you're done, close and save. Boom. Once you're finished going through your entire revision, it is time to get rid of all that hidden text and all those tags, because you don't want your customer to receive that. You want him to receive a completely clean, finished document. One thing I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, before I move on too far, is that another thing that Fusion will not jump in automatically, but that you need to jump in yourself, are the headers and footers. Just like when you navigate through the text, those are treated separately. So if the headers and footers require translation, simply double click in them and translate it as you would normally. And this is a good opportunity to actually talk about field codes. Some sentences might contain field codes. So field codes are blocks of word that insert some type of text or reference automatically. For example, we have two field codes here, which is the page number and the total page numbers in the document. If you want to transfer those because you don't want to recreate the field code yourself, or maybe you don't even really know what field codes are, Fusion will let you do so by clicking on this function here, copy field. Okay, you need to do this as often as there are fields in the document, the segment currently open. And again, it's under more copy fields under the copy section. And there you go. Once you've translated that, you can save it. You can go back to your document, and you see that the footer has been translated. Now the translation is complete. So I apologize. I jumped the gun a little bit. So my translation is complete, and let's assume that my revision is complete as well. If I am to send this to my final customer and they want the final document, I need to proceed to what we call the cleanup. Again, it's to get rid of all the hidden references that we've kept in the document, all these and all the original text and etc. etc. We do not want this to be part of the document that we send to our customer, unless they've asked for it, but typically they will not. So this, as I mentioned, is called the cleanup phase. The cleanup is done quite simply by clicking the cleanup button, as you can see here. Before I go anywhere, I'm again going to hide the hidden text here. If I click cleanup, the cleanup window from Fusion will open. In the cleanup window, you can add more documents to be cleaned if for some reason you wanted to clean more than one at a time. It typically will not happen, but it could. But the document that we're working with currently, demo doc, has automatically been added to this list. Usually all you have to do is click next. Here, what you want to do is select the translation memory that you want to send the contents into. Again, because this is an option that's presented to you because Fusion doesn't necessarily force you to update a translation memory at any time. So if you want to update the translation memory after your revision because maybe somebody else did the revision, or you actually want to update a different translation memory, you'll have the opportunity to select a different one right here. In my case, I want to select the same one because that's the one that I'm working with and I'm happy with it. You also have the option, by the way, of not sending your translation into any translation memory. I'm not sure why you would do that, but you can. In any case, select the translation memory, if any, that you want, then click next. There are a bunch of options here. I will tell you, most of the time, don't bother with them, except that you want to select add under the duplicate section. What this does is it simply tells Fusion, if during your cleanup you find a sentence that already exists in the translation memory, but it has a different translation from what's already there, what do I do then? Because Fusion has to decide somehow. By clicking add, what it will do is it will keep the existing translation and add another translation with whatever is in your document as you clean it up. This is usually the option that most people select, simply because it then gives them access to all the translation. The other options are selecting modify, in which case the existing translation will be overwritten with whatever is in the document right now. The benefit of this one would be that you only ever keep the most recent translation, and in some cases it's desirable. This will really depend on what you as a team or as a translator, how you like to organize your translation memories. But typically, again, you'll be using add. You could also select the don't update TM, which means that your document would stay as is, but the TM would not be updated with the new translation. However, having said all this, I really want to stress that this only comes into play in case of duplicates, which means that the translation that is in your document differs from something that already exists in your translation memory. Typically, this will not happen because your translations will have been entered as you were translating anyway. So a lot of people get caught up on this. I wanted to explain it here, but again, I want you to realize that this is only for duplicates. Your translations will appear in the translation memory um, 99% of the time, if not more, without having to even consider these options. Clicking next again, we will skip over this. This is something for a different video. Here you have the choice. You have several choices actually. So you currently have a Word document. Okay, your Word document contains the original text and the translated text. The final document, the clean document, um, you have several options. First of all, you have the option to add a suffix to it, and by default, the parenthesis cleaned suffix will be added to the document name. What that does is that instead of overwriting your working document, it will create a copy that has the same name, including whatever suffix you decide to enter here. In this case, cleaned, as long as you keep this checkbox checked. The advantage of doing that is that if you later on realize that, hey, I made a mistake, it's much easier to just come back to the document, make the changes, and then re-clean it. Or at least it can be, while also having the benefit of updating your translation in the translation memory. Keeping multiple versions of your documents, the original, the work version, and the clean version, is something that I would recommend. At least up until the point where your document is received, your client has received the document, they're happy with the translation, and everything is hunky-dory. You don't need to go back to it. At this point, you feel free to get rid of the working copy. The other option that you have is to send the clean copy into a specific folder. By default, Fusion will keep the clean copy in the same folder that the working copy is. So let's say, for argument's sake, you were working off of your desktop. So the original document or the working document is on your desktop. After the cleanup, Fusion will have, well, not Fusion, but Word will create a separate copy that has the same name plus the suffix on the desktop. If for some reason you want to send that clean copy somewhere else, you simply check that checkbox, go and select the folder where you would like to send that copy, and then click OK. I'm not going to do it here. And note that because you're going to create the document afterwards, it's going to be a Word document. You'll be able to move it, copy it, paste it as you would any other document. But this is just if you're very methodical in the way you organize things, this is something you can use. And finally, you have a little report that will be saved by default under a log file. Those are not typically really useful for cleanups, and it's not typically something you go back to. It's just, it doesn't cost you much. Just leave it as is, and you'll be fine. Click next again, and now I'm finally ready. I know it sounded complicated, but most of the time you just fly through those options by clicking next. I'm finally ready. So all I have to do at this point is click start. When I click start, what's going to happen is Fusion is going to go through the document that we've been working on. It's going to check each segment, and for each segment that has a translation, it's going to remove all the tags, only keep the translated text, and send the translation to the translation memory. And once it's finished, I'll be done with only my translated text. So yes, if we did not save the document prior to the cleanup, it will remind you that you might want to save it, which is always a good thing. Click yes. The document is cleaning in the background, as you can tell. See, we just saw some of the segments being processed. There you go, it just processed the headers, and then it's complete. So now I have my translated document. Now, of course, because I only translated some of it, most of it is still in English. But you can see that whatever I entered has indeed been included, including my footer, which is good. My footnotes, should be fine as well. Exactly. And if I display the hidden text, none of the tags or the original text appears. And that's it. Now my document is clean and it's ready to be sent to my customer. And that's pretty much everything there is to it. So once you're done with your document, you're ready to move on to the next one. And moving on to the next one means repeating the process that we started talking about at the beginning. Selecting your resources, going to get your document, and translating it with Fusion. I hope this was useful to you. If you have any more questions, like I said, there are more advanced functionalities, um, but it would be a very long video for me to go through them all. They are available in our manual, which is available from our website or directly from us if you'd like to get in touch with us. And if you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us. So thank you very much, and see you next time.